Beneath the greatest monument of the Roman Empire, the Colosseum, lay a world even historians hesitated to write about. A world of stone tunnels, iron rings, and silence so heavy it felt alive. Rome called it entertainment. Victors called it reward. But for the people trapped beneath the arena, it was a slow erasing of identity, one breath at a time. Gladiators fought for glory in the sand above, but what happened after the crowd went home was something Rome tried desperately to bury. A tradition disguised as honor. A privilege disguised as triumph. A system so efficient, so rehearsed, that even the victims rarely understood the machinery crushing them. Among Rome's captured was a young woman named Livia of the Ardui, taken from a tribe that refused to kneel. And among Rome's champions was Gaius Marcellus Draven, a fighter born in chains, forged in blood, and celebrated by thousands. Their paths should never have crossed. But one decision, one refusal, shook the very foundation of the empire. This is the forgotten story of what happened beneath the world's most famous arena. The story Rome hid behind marble and myth. The story of a gladiator who rediscovered his humanity, and a captive who refused to disappear. What Roman gladiators did to captive women wasn't just brutal. It was systematic, political, calculated, and for the first time, one man dared to break the system. Rome did not conquer the world with swords alone. It conquered with systems. After every battle, after every burned village and silenced rebellion, the empire activated a machinery so efficient that even defeat felt organized. Captives were not seen as people, they were categories, numbers, assets. Rome processed them with the same discipline it used to march its legions. Men were separated for labor or execution. Children were sorted by age and strength. But the fate of women revealed Rome's coldest truth. Every captured woman, no matter her origin, was given a designation: captiva. Her name, her family, her story erased in a single stroke of a scribe's stylus. She became an entry on a wax tablet, a line in the empire's inventory. The most feared destination was the arena holding complex, a place where prisoners disappeared into stone corridors lit by torches and echoing with distant crowd noise. Rome told its people the Colosseum was a monument to glory, discipline, and courage. But beneath it existed a hidden engine, one that turned human suffering into entertainment and tradition into domination. This wasn't chaos. This wasn't impulse. This was policy. Tribes across the empire learned quickly. Falling to Rome meant losing not just freedom, but identity. And in the year 79 AD, after a northern rebellion was crushed, one of the captives taken into this machinery was a young woman named Livia, a name Rome refused to record. She didn't know it yet. But the empire that planned to erase her life was about to collide with a man who had nearly forgotten his own humanity. Beneath the roaring heart of the Colosseum, a hidden city existed, dark corridors carved into stone, flickering torches casting long shadows, and narrow chambers built with cold, clinical intent. This was the Hypogeum, the underworld where Rome stored everything it didn't want the world above to see. Animals waited in iron cages. Gladiators prepared for death or triumph. And captives, especially women, were processed like objects. Livia was taken into one of these stone rooms. It had no window, no warmth, no trace of humanity. Just a bench, a bucket of water, and iron rings bolted into the walls. The room was too quiet, too organized. That was what made it terrifying. Cruelty didn't need chaos here. It had procedure. A scribe entered with a wax tablet. Not a guard, not a soldier. A scribe because Rome documented everything. He recorded Livia's age, her tribe, her condition. He never looked her in the eyes. When he finished, he carved a single line that sealed her fate: allocation, pending champion. That phrase meant one thing: she would be assigned as part of the victor's reward. Above her, 50,000 Romans shouted the names of their favorite fighters. The crowd adored the blood, the spectacle, the triumph, but not one of them could imagine the quiet suffering happening below their cheering feet. In these chambers, identity dissolved. Voice meant nothing. Defiance went unheard. Livia sat silently, listening to the muffled roar of the crowd above, feeling the weight of the empire pressing down on her. She wondered if anyone would ever even speak her name again. She didn't know that someone unexpected was about to do exactly that. Above the Hypogeum, the arena thundered with celebration. Gaius Marcellus, Draven, Rome's undefeated champion, had just won another brutal contest. His name echoed of marble walls, carried by 50,000 voices hungry for spectacle. To the crowd, he was strength, glory, and Roman perfection. But to the empire, he was something else. A weapon that obeyed. After each victory, gladiators were escorted beneath the sand into the victor's chamber, a stone room where triumph was turned into tradition. There, officials presented a bronze tablet listing the spoils every champion was expected to accept: gold, wine, a night in a real bed. And the final line Rome defended a sacred custom: Victoria Carnalis allocation of captive. To the arena officials, it was routine. To the scribes, it was paperwork. To the captives, it was a sentence without a voice. Draven had accepted this privilege many times before, not out of desire, but because Rome left no room for refusal. Gladiators were praised for obedience, not conscience. But today felt different. As he sat in the dim chamber, still breathing hard from battle, the tablet trembled slightly in his hand. Something inside him resisted a memory, a fracture, a whisper reminding him that he had once been a captive too. A guard stepped forward. "The captives are prepared, champion. Choose your reward." Draven didn't answer immediately. For the first time in years, the chains Rome had placed inside his mind began to shift. He glanced at the wax records handed to him, and paused when he saw one name written not as a name, but as a number. Captive 27 Ardui. He didn't know her, but he understood her fate. And for the first time in his career, victory did not feel like triumph, it felt like a test. In the dim holding chamber, Livia sat with her back straight, refusing to collapse into the helplessness Rome expected from its captives. The stone beneath her was cold, the air heavy with the metallic smell of damp iron and distant torches. Yet her eyes stayed sharp, watching, calculating, remembering. Rome had destroyed her village. It had taken her people. It had carved her identity into a number. But it had not taken her mind. When the scribe classified her for allocation, she understood enough to feel the dread settle in her lungs. The older women whispered prayers. The younger ones stared at the walls, trying to disappear inside themselves. Hope was a luxury none of them could afford. Livia refused to give Rome her fear. She traced the memories of her homeland in her thoughts: the forest wind, the smell of pine smoke, the songs her tribe sang during winter gatherings. Every detail kept her human in a place designed to erase humanity. Then the footsteps came. 3 guards. A scribe. Livia braced herself. "Captive 27B, the scribe announced without looking at her. "Prepare for transfer." Champion pending. Her heart tightened, but she didn't let her expression change. One of the guards hesitated when he saw her standing tall instead of trembling. "This one still has fire," he muttered. The scribe shrugged. "The fire won't matter. The champion will choose." But far above this chamber, just floors away, Draven was staring at her designation on the wax tablet. And the fire the god spoke of was the very thing that made him pause. Rome did not care about Livia. But one man was about to. Draven stood in the victor's chamber, the bronze tablet heavy in his hands. The roar of the crowd had faded, replaced by the low hum of torches and the quiet pressure of expectation. The officials watched him closely. To them, this moment wasn't about reward, it was about obedience. A champion's loyalty kept the machinery running. But the line carved into the tablet, "Captive 27 Ardui," kept echoing in his mind. He had been a number once. He had been property once. He knew what it meant for Rome to turn a life into a designation. A guard cleared his throat impatiently. "Champion, the captives are ready. You may claim your allocation." Draven didn't move. Another guard stepped forward. "It is tradition," he reminded firmly. Draven finally lifted his eyes. "Tradition," he said quietly, "is not the same as justice." The men around him stiffened. Gladiators were not supposed to speak like that. They were trained to fight, obey, and accept their rewards without question. But something inside him, buried for years, had woken. He set the tablet down. "I refuse the allocation." Silence swallowed the chamber. The officials exchanged looks of alarm. A champion refusing his imperial privilege was more than defiance. It was a crack in the Empire's illusion of absolute control. "You refuse?" the master of games repeated, as if the word itself was foreign. Yes, a simple word. A dangerous word. A word Rome was not prepared to hear from one of its most celebrated weapons. Without touching the captive, without seeing her face, Draven had just protected Livia in the only way the system allowed. And unknowingly, he had challenged Rome itself.